Hi, I'm Bonnie Barker, and I'm with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and this is part 3 of a 3-part installment on how to read crochet instructions. And we are still using the Noggins and Necks crochet booklet by Bonnie Barker. This was published by Leisure Arts. And we are going to use the 2-stitch hat and scarf set. We've already covered the scarf in part 2. And this is the part where we learn how to crochet the hat. It's very important that you take a look at the gauge in order to make sure this hat fits an adult's head, not a Barbie doll's head or an elephant's head, when we get done with this project. That may sound extreme, but I've had students actually, call me concerned because their hat was just way too big, and would say, Mrs. Barker, what's wrong with the pattern? And my first question would be, well, honey, did you check your gauge before you began? And usually the answer is, check my what? The gauge is a way to find out that your crochet stitch sizes are similar to that of the designer. So in this pattern, there is a gauge, and your gauge should be 11 stitches equals 4 inches, 10 rows equals 4 inches of this stitch. So what you may want to do is do a small gauge swatch, and the instructions for that are right here. It is in the pattern. So if you try crocheting the first 10 rows of the scarf, again, the instructions for that are in the second video. You should come up with a piece of garment approximately 6.5 inches wide and 4 inches high. So I would take some time to do that to make sure that this hat is not a total waste of your time and yarn. Or you may end up having to learn the ripping stitch, which is basically ripping everything back out. A lot of crocheters call this frogging because you're always having to rip it. You don't want to spend a lot of time doing that. I prefer to spend the time crocheting. Well, the first thing that we're going to do, the instructions say chain 4. Whenever you see a chain to begin, you always have to do the slip knot, which is like that. Okay. If you don't know how to do the slip knot, I do have a video on that. So just look up Bonnie Bay Crochet on YouTube and slip knot, or you can go to my website where I have all the beginning stitches categorized and ready to go one after the other. Okay, now we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the next thing it says, join with a slip stitch to form a ring. So we're going to go to the first stitch, and we're going to do a slip stitch. Now there's a very small donut formed by doing that. Okay, let's go to row 1. Row 1 says CH1, which we know means chain 1. So let's chain 1. And it says 14 single crochet in ring. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the middle of this hole 14 times to make 14 slip stitches. Now let me show you something else that I like to do. I like to hide my strings, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to include this little tail end here as part of the ring that I'm going to crochet around. That way all I got to do is snip this with a pair of scissors in the end, and it's forever hidden. Okay, let's go ahead and do our 14 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's 8. Now it's getting a little crowded. I'm going to just push them around a little bit so I have more room. 9, 10, 11, 12. Push a little bit more. 13, 14. Now after the 14 single crochet, it says join with the slip stitch to the first single crochet. Again, slip, stitch. Now we're ready to go on to row 2. Row 2 says chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And you'll notice that inside the parentheses in bold, it says counts as first double crochet. Now it says to double crochet in same stitch. So I'm going to put another double crochet where I joined the slip stitch. Okay. Notice I haven't turned or anything. I'm still facing the same direction. Now it says 2 double crochet in next single crochet and in each single crochet around. So I'm going to put 2 double crochet in each stitch. 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm going to do this all the way around, then I'll come back to you. Okay, I've gone all the way around, 2 double crochet in each stitch, in each single crochet, and then it says to join with a slip stitch to first double crochet. So I'm going to join with the slip stitch to the first double crochet, and remember the first double crochet was the chain stitch because that counts as our first double crochet. So I'm going to put the single crochet right there. Now you also are going to notice at the end of that row it says 28 double crochet. That tells you how many stitches you should have around. And if you're a beginner, I would go ahead and count to make sure you have the correct number of stitches. It's easy to not put enough stitches, you know, to miss 1 or 2. And if you do that, your stitch count is going to be off. If you're off, let's say, by 2 stitches on this row, your next stitch is going to be off. Your next row will be off by at least 4 stitches, which can be a problem. That's at least an inch when it comes to the circumference of the hat. So you want to make sure you have the right number of stitches, especially early on in your pattern like this. Okay, let's go on to chain 3. Chain 3 says to chain 1, and it says to turn. So we're going to turn now. Okay, now it says single crochet, double crochet in next DC. Notice that the SC and the DC are in parentheses. So we're going to do both of these. We're going to single crochet and we're going to double crochet in that stitch. Now what does it say? It says, well, let's read the whole thing again. It says single crochet, double crochet, that's in the parentheses, in next DC, which would be double crochet, and in each double crochet around, join with the slip stitch to the first stitch. So we're in each stitch, we're going to put 2 stitches, a single crochet and then a double crochet. Notice that that's going to double our stitch count again. So if we had 28 stitches in row 2, and it tells us at the end of row 3, we should have 56 stitches at the end of this row. Okay, so I'm just going to keep repeating that. Single crochet, double crochet in each stitch. Single crochet, double crochet. Let me show you kind of what that should look like. I'll be right back. Okay, at the end of this row, it says to join with the single crochet at the top of the first stitch, and the first stitch was the single crochet. So I do a slip stitch there. Okay, let me show you what I have here. It looks a little funny. It's a pretty ripply circle right now, but actually this is the total number of stitches that you have for each row from here on out. If you look at the next row, row 4, it says rounds 4 through 30. We are going to do the same thing. So this is what the next row and the rest of the rows are going to look like. We're going to chain 1, we're going to turn. And just like with the scarf, we're going to single crochet in the next double crochet, which would be right there, and double crochet in the next single crochet. Okay, and notice that those are in parentheses. So, and we're going to do that all the way around. So let's read what's in parentheses again. Single crochet in the double crochet in the single crochet. And I'm going to repeat that all the way around. Okay. And this is the way you're going to finish the hat. You're going to do this all the way around. This would be row 3. I'm sorry, row 4. I keep making that mistake. This is row 4. And if you ever wonder what row are you on, you can always count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or I'd even, another better thing to do would be to just make a little pencil mark or use a little sticky note on your pattern if you don't want to write on your pattern, and just make little marks, you know, to remind yourself what row you are on so you don't have to count. But after doing this for 30 rows, you will be completed. The hat will be completed. And then it says to finish off. I know this is not a hat and I'm nowhere near completed, but let me show you how you would finish off a project. If you're going to when it says to finish off, what you're going to do is you're going to take the thread, pull it through, knot it, and then, let me get my scissors. We're going to cut the yarn, just like that. And then we're going to pull it through. And pull it tight. And then you would take your needle. I would take a yarn needle rather. And then you're going to try to hide this into the fabric of your yarn. I actually have a complete video on that. If you look at hiding loose ends, I do have a video on how you can do that. Okay? All right, well, let me show you a picture of the hat. And I wish you the best. If you have any questions, you can always get in touch with me through YouTube or through my website at bonniebaycrochet.com. Happy crocheting. Bye-bye.